Now, all revved up for more red-hot motorsport, it's the LG Super Racing Weekend with
Yokohama, power of performance.
Welcome to Donington Park, the 9th and penultimate round of the FIA GT Championship on Eurosport, and a beautiful October weekend for one of the most critical races of the series. The Championship's second visit to Great Britain after Silverstone in the height of the summer. Again, the Midlands provides a sunny venue and another challenging racetrack at Donington Park. And David Leslie, hard on drivers who aren't locals, and there are plenty of Brits willing to put them in their place. Hard on brakes, hard on tyres, and also tough on fuel.
Yes, Donington's one of these circuits, although it looks very fast and very open, the S's down to the Melbourne hairpin and into Goddard is very tight indeed. A lot of braking, a lot of accelerating, and that really does eat up the fuel. It does eat up the rear tyres on these cars, so they will find it very hard during this race to get around this circuit. It's also very hard on brakes. I can remember racing here in the World Sports Car Championship, and this was the hardest circuit we went to in the World Sports Car Championship as far as brakes went.
Jean-Marc Gounon claims his first pole for the BMS Scuderia Italia team. He shares with Enzo Calderari and Lilian Brinner. That's their best qualifying that car all year. Alongside him, Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicolas Springer. And they come chasing the championship leaders. There you see Bobby Verdon-Rowe looking in the door at Jamie. So clearly Bobby not starting the number 15 car. That will be done by Ian McKellar Jr. And as the cars fire up ready to go, well, Andrea Piccini's car is a little further back down the order. Piccini, of course, the lead of those Ferraris. He's in third spot on the grid, and the second string Carsport Holland car number 4 lines up in fourth position. Mike Hasemans and Anthony Kumpen will start fifth for Carsport Holland. Bobby Verdon-Rowe, Dave Warnock waiting as Ian McKellar starts sixth place. But the points leaders coming here have been split. The Labra team deciding to leave Christophe Bouchou in car number 1, but to shove Paul David Terrian, his co-driver, into car number 2. That means that if Bouchou wins the title, he will do it on his own, without the man who has co-driven him this year. And that's pretty much the way that Bouchou has run this car all season, doing all the testing and the lion's share of the work at the track as well, giving Bouchou 2 stints and Terrian 1, and giving Bouchou almost all of the free testing as well as the qualifying duties. Terrian has really just been there to allow Christophe Bouchou to only drive 2 hours out of the 3. Well, it's Bouchou and Vos then in 8th spot in car number 1. And they're alongside Philippe Alliot and David Halliday, who have given up the recalcitrant Ferrari and have a brand new Oreca Viper to play with. David Terrian shares with Carl Rosenblad in Labra's number 2 car, and so far this weekend he has outpaced the number 1 car in almost every session. A little bit miffed to be pushed off into the B team. And leading the British Challenge in the GT class, NGT class rather, Steve O'Rourke and Robin Liddell, who raced last time he was here in a Porsche in the European Le Mans Series, was on the podium and then went on to win the GT class title in the European Le Mans Series with co-driver Mike Mules. Well, away they go from the start, and Jean-Marc Gounon, ex-Formula 3000 driver, ex-Mercedes and BMW sports car race, Jamie Campbell-Walter alongside him and on board in the Hasemans car, bumping and boring in the first corner. As we see the other Hasemans car shoved out onto the grass, the number 4 car of Capillari and Golin. And Fabrizio Golin bundled out as the Ferraris are 1-3 and the Lister Storms are 2 and 4 from 2nd and 6th on the grid. So an excellent start from Ian McKellar Jr. If you don't know his name, he's been racing in the British GT Championship for several years, largely with the TVR Speed 12, and now more recently with the Lister Storm crew, as well as doing some Saleen racing. And David, already Jamie Campbell-Walter looking to make a move for the lead and to try and build up an early advantage here at Donington.
He knows the circuit well. He has been very quick. He's been top of the timesheets most of the time. He didn't win Super Pole. He lost it just on this section that we're coming into now, behind the pits here, the very tight section. So he wants to get through to the front. He wants to be in the front, then he can pull away. But he's sandwiched between 2 Ferraris, and I think that they will make life quite difficult for him.
Well, Gounon driving what's normally the slower crude of the Ferraris. Behind Ian McKellar Jr. with Mike Hasemans. He shares, of course, with Anthony Kumpen. But with Gounon aboard, that number 22 car just as quick as the 23 car. And the 23 car being started by Andrea Piccini, of course, sharing with Jean-Denis Delatraz, who did Super Pole duties for them this weekend. So the two Pro-Drive built, but BMS Scuderia Italia run cars, first and third. And Bobby Verdon, Ian McKellar Jr. rather, being pushed down the order a little there, as we see Mike Hasemans has moved up to fourth position. But that won't worry Junior. He'll get into his stride very quickly in the Lister Storm. And it looks, David, as we've got a really strong field here, not only in GT but also in NGT. We've got a brand new Viper, Philippe Alliot, up there in sixth position. We've got two strong Labra cars, two strong Ferraris, at least for one of the stints. We've got two strong Lister Storm crews. We've got the two Belmondo cars as well, and a few other in the GT class who, like the Alliot car, to make up the numbers. It's by no means going to be the regular faces guaranteed a top podium place here.
No, it's not. The people running these cars have decided it's near the end of the season they want to make places up in the championship, or maybe even clinch the championship, and they've gone out there and they've got the right people in the cars to make sure that they're going to go really well. And all of these cars now have got star drivers in them somewhere along the line. As you say, the car in third place here, you've got Jean-Marc Goujon, and you know, these are there to do a job, and they're doing a very, very good job indeed.
So a big bundle of British cars as well entered in the NGT class. The GTO class, as it's called, in the British Championship. And the British Championship runners have all had to modify their cars. The rules are different in the FIA series. They're not allowed carbon metallic or all-carbon brakes. It has to be steel brakes. So there's a big change there. And also for Mike Jordan's team, which is running a car for himself and Mark Sumter, and also for identical twin brothers David and Godfrey Jones, they have not only had to do that, but after the last British GT race, they have also had to change engines and gearboxes on both cars. So monster work on there. Velox Motorsport have come with a pair of Ferraris. Jamie Davis paired with Ivan Capelli, yes, that Ivan Capelli, the Formula One Ferrari driver, and Tim Sugden racing with Andrew Kirkcaldy. And this, I think, is a sign of something that Sam Lee, the team patron, certainly hopes will be a permanent presence in next year's FIA series, a two-car effort. Also, Jamie Wall and Peter Cook have brought a Porsche 996 here, a GT3 RS, and Johnny Molam shares with Ian Kahn, Jürgen von Gartzen's Porsche. Von Gartzen not racing this weekend, and the two British drivers getting on very well indeed with that car, despite a few technical problems, as we mentioned obviously earlier. Also Steve O'Rourke and Robin Liddell. So well, getting on for a good half of the field in NGT is British cars and drivers, which is excellent to see.
It's the same when you go to most of these different countries with this Super Racing Weekend FIA GT series. In whichever country you're in, you suddenly get an influx of drivers from that country trying to be a star at their home country with their home TV. And we certainly have that here, but we have some extra entries, as you said, with the Velox Motorsport Ferraris and some extra Porsches as well. Unfortunately, the Jamie Wall, Peter Cook car didn't actually start the race. I haven't found out exactly why, but they never made the start.
Well, certainly from the point of Velox Motorsport, they are looking to contest the entire series next year in the NGT class. And Mike Jordan and Eurotech also looking to run at least one car in the FIA GT series. I think a number of the teams are starting to feel that they have a little bit outgrown the British series, and with all the TV coverage, obviously, that Eurosport is giving the Super Racing weekends, they are looking to move up a little bit. And this is very much a great way of getting a toe in the water, isn't it, David, to judge what the competition's like compared to your cars. See the battle going on there with the Lister, who, of course, have been part of the series for a long while, versus the Ferraris. But for the newcomers, it's a great way to judge yourself and see if you've got what it takes to run with the best.
Yeah, we see in the insert there, the Ferrari has actually gone past the Lister. I don't know what the Lister did, but certainly did something wrong at Coppice coming onto the straight there. Ran wide wherever it did, but it certainly lost a lot of time at the beginning of the straight. And the Ferrari of Piccini managed to take a hold of that and take the second place away from him.
So Gounon and Pacini first and second for BMS Scuderia Italia in their Ferrari 550 Maranellos. And right behind, oh, contact into Goddard's. Jamie Campbell-Walter was looking inside the 23 car, made contact with Pacini. Well, David, it's a very obvious overtaking place. It's a very wide corner, very slow hairpin, and unless you guard the inside line jealously, somebody will always come down the inside. Pacini finding that out to his cost. Now, this is on the straight past the exhibition centre, and Pacini out-dragging Jamie, as you said, a mistake out of coppice, and he just sneaks in front. Nice clean move. Jamie gives him room to do it, not on the straight but in the chicane. But then down to the Melbourne hairpin, contact between the two of them, and there seems to be one light out on the Lister Storm, so some damage to the front of the Lister as well. Let's have a look at the replay. Well, it looks from what we see, damage on the right front of the Lister, that he was down inside the Ferrari, but obviously spinning the Ferrari means he was not all the way inside. Now, whether the stewards will see that as a racing incident or not is obviously entirely down to them. But whatever, the Ferrari dropped down the order a little. Mike Hazeman's really motoring on, though. He's now in third place and looking to catch Campbell-Walter. And Jamie's lost the bonnet as well. Now, that will need a trip to the pits, I think.
Yes, whatever damage he did going into the Goddard chicane on the corner has obviously upset not just that corner, but obviously upset the bonnet a little bit. And if you lose one of, say, maybe the 4 bits and pieces of the bonnet that hold it together, then the whole thing's going to come off. Exactly what happened. Now we can see the whole thing with the wing start to come apart. So the wing isn't fixed at the front, and with the amount of air and the speed that these cars are doing, then that's going to rip that wing off if it carries on much longer.
Looking there at the pit wall, closest to the camera, Mike Jordan and his crew, and that's because Lawrence Pierce is no longer leaning over the pit wall. He's already back in the garage, organising the parts that Campbell-Walter will need. All that smoke, incidentally, is the bodywork just being pushed down onto the tyre, not held in place by its normal retaining brackets. It's just being shoved down by the speed the car is going onto the tyre, and that is just going to trash the tyres as well. So for Jamie Campbell-Walter, definitely a pit visit. There's no way he'll even countenance racing that car towards the finish. He knows he will have to come in. Now, what he will try and do is stay out, go as fast as he can until they're ready for him, spend as much time on the track without losing ground, and then dive into the pits when he gets the signal going, OK, we've got the bits. But it's not something you normally expect to be doing in a race, David, so this is going to be a little bit of a panic.
It will be. Certainly on the pit wall, they'll have watched the car go past, they'll have seen what damage is done to it, they'll have seen it on the TV screens, they'll be in radio contact with Jamie, he'll have said what happened to the car, how we come to have that damage on it, so they'll know approximately what they want to do. Normally these things like a bonnet would be quite easy, just put another one on, but when the whole front right-hand corner, that wing is hanging off, then that's a much bigger job, so I'm not sure what it's going to take to try and repair it, but you can see the whole thing just hanging on the edge there, and there he is now, diving straight into the pits.
Well, this is a major wrinkle in the Championship Challenge there. Lawrence Pierce with the pit board for Jamie Campbell-Walter and for his co-driver as well, Nick Springer, because they come into the Championship so closely balanced that it's really going to be very, very difficult indeed for them to, I'm looking for my points, to fight back against Bouchou, possibly, and or Terrian. Now the two are split. Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nick Springer coming in 3.5 points adrift. Little fire in the bottom of the wheel, that's debris catching light on the red hot wheel rim or brake disc, and
I think fairly shortly they're going to realise it's going to take quite a lot of fixing, and if I remember right, you're only allowed so many people to work on the car when it's in the pit lane, so maybe quicker for them to actually wheel the car inside and then set a lot more people on the car. Once it's in the garage, you can have more people working on the car. So at the moment they still have this fire with just debris on the very, very hot brake discs that are inside there. But they're trying to take the wheel off at this moment in time to have a good look underneath to see exactly what on the front wing they're going to have to replace.
Well, Lawrence there talking, you saw in the door to Jamie, and planning their strategy, and they really do work very much as a father and son combination between the two of them, and Nick Springer, who's the other operating partner in the Lister company. That's really where the focus of power is, and clearly they will do everything they can to get the car back in, but wow, one lap down already to Jean-Marc Gounon's storming race-leading 22 Ferrari, and several more they'll go down, David, before they've got any chance of getting Jamie back on track. Now, of course, Gounon out on his own, And we're used to seeing this from the Ferrari, but normally from the 23 car. That's been biffed down the order. On board with Christophe Bouchou in the number 1 car, and making small adjustments as he goes along. That's something that the drivers will continue to do throughout the race, presumably to counteract the effect of the wearing brakes as the race progresses.
That looked like a brake balance operation he was carrying out there, a quick half turn or quarter turn of the brake balance. Maybe he's finding the fronts locking or the rears locking, and he's turning it one way or the other just to look after these tyres. You cannot afford to be locking wheels and tyres up in this endurance racing. You have to make these tyres last the full approximately 55 minutes to an hour that these cars will take before they come in for the first fuel stop.
Well, Bouchou now in 4th place, ahead of Philippe Alliot and Andrea Piccini in the recovering Ferrari. Fabio Babini for the Belmondo Viper team, then David Therian in the number 2 Labre car. Jean-Pierre Jarier is here this weekend with his regular co-driver Francois Lafont. Fabrizio Golin ahead of Marc Duez. And Bertil Roos here, I haven't mentioned him, he's here this weekend. Henrik Roos, rather, Bertil Roos' son. Henrik Roos with Magnus Wallander, an all-Swedish effort in their Viper. But they have really struggled here. They've been the slowest of the GT class cars, apart from the darts racing Ferrari, the Red Bull car of Luca Riccitelli and Dieter Questa. Little flash of the lamps there. I wonder if Gounon's not got his radio, or if it's not working entirely. Maybe he was just flashing the headlamps at the slower car in front of him. Yes, I think that was probably it. He's catching the Proton Racing Porsche 911 GT2 car. It's another GT class machine, driven by Gerald and Christian Reed, the father and son combination of Mauro Casadei. So making his presence felt. Here's Philippe Alliot, making his presence felt right behind Christophe Bouchou. And Alliot, the former Grand Prix driver, ex-Le Mans winner, of course, with Porsche. And Christophe Bouchou, also a Le Mans winner, but not outright. Oh, yes, he has, of course, for Peugeot several times. Now, that's a pretty good match of equals as well. The Labre competition car versus a brand new Caldwell-engined Oreca. That's as works a Viper as works Vipers get, basically. That's exactly the full factory spec, if there was still a factory racing them. And a great battle. Alliot really gassing it out of McLean's, trying to get the run up to Coppice, and he is all over the back of Bouchou. And I have to say, Bouchou would be wise not to fight this now. He knows that Campbell Walter's in the pits with a problem. He knows that Piccini's been bumped back. He really doesn't want to get himself tangling up in a battle, but well, Bouchou's not necessarily always his best friend in these situations, I think.
Yeah, he's got a good solid position there, and all he needs to do is hang on to it. Alliot and this Viper, you have to remember, they've now got this new car, and previously had a Ferrari which constantly gave them hassles, constantly made them slowest, and were constantly breaking down. So he's out there, he's thoroughly enjoying it. They're having a fantastic time. They're really pleased with the car, and they're out there and they know they can be quick, and they know they can do a good job. And he's out there to prove that, you know, what happened at the beginning of this season with their previous car is long gone and forgotten, and they're going to go out there and try and do really well with this all singing, all dancing, brand new Viper that's out there. And as you said, it's not the best idea for Bouchou in the world to keep him back for too long, because one way or the other, two Formula 1 drivers, ex-Formula 1 drivers, they're going to want to be pushing each other and get past each other. So I can see that Alliot is going to give him an extremely hard time until he does get past.
Yeah, Alliot's really full of it this weekend. So too David Halliday, actually. David Halliday came out with a great quote that sums up their season in the first 8 races. He said, do you know what? We're now going to find out if the fuel rig actually works, because we may need to actually put some fuel in the car, which they have not had to do so far. The car's barely run a race lap and very few practice laps, the Ferrari they used previously. And Alliot, well, he's like a dog with a bone, isn't he? Worrying Bouchou. Really, really keen to get by. And as you said, David, 2 ex-Grand Prix drivers, both real single-seater and sports car aces. And it's good to see Bouchou under some pressure while Campbell Walter sits in the pits. Round 9 of the FIA GT Championship at Donington Park, and the NGT class being led by the Velox Ferrari of Tim Sugden. Shares the car with ex-Formula 3 ace, the Scot Andrew Kirkcaldy. But at the moment, it's Brits a go-go, because he's leading from the MK car that he normally drives with Steve O'Rourke. That's being pedalled by Robin Liddell, and Antonio Garcia, the regular NGT, or a regular NGT front-runner, the man who claimed pole in Super Pole in the class, is back there in 3rd place. Freising Motorsport Porsche cresting the rise in 4th, and down into the hairpin, that is Stefan Ortelli, and he shares the car this weekend with yet another of those handy Porsche salary drivers, Romain Dumas. He must have worked his way through about half of Porsche's factory outfit as his co-drivers this year, and almost every single one of them has been a good luck charm. Well, here you see the move earlier on in the lap that cost Liddell the early lead. He was the early leader. And Tim Sugden, well, that's an irony, passing the car he normally races to take the lead of the class. Well, Sugden, I think, will be part of the Velux Motorsport Challenge in next year's FIA GT Series. And leading here at Donington Park. 17 laps into the race. And, well, we've got a bit of a jumbled order as Andrea Piccini moves up ahead of Ian McKellar Jr. Jamie Campbell-Walters, number 14, Lister Storm, in the pits for frontal damage after a clash with Piccini at Goddard's. But it wasn't just the loss of a bonnet and the loss of a front wing. Also, somewhere in the incident or the ensuing fire in the wheel, they lost a brake reservoir master cylinder.
The two Ferraris were, you know, playing games with me, especially Gounon in the lead Ferrari. He was brake testing me and basically playing dirty tricks to try and help his teammate get in front of me, and you know, I wasn't prepared to have that, but one lap he brake tested me on the exit of a corner, and Piccini managed to get past me because obviously it slowed me onto the straight. And then Piccini out-braked himself up at the hairpin there, so I just went down the inside of him like a normal racing line, and he was off the line, and he basically cut across my bows, and I had nowhere to go.
So that's how Jamie sees it. Stewards saw it differently. They gave the number 14 Lister Storm a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for causing an avoidable accident. And Piccini on fire now as he moves past the Carsport Holland car for second position. The Lister Storm with that broken master cylinder or cracked master cylinder needing to be replaced down in the guts of the car. Never going to be a quick job, and that has cost them plenty. The number 23 car moves into second. So 26 laps in traffic. This is David Terrian's number 2 car. He shares with Carl Rosenblatt, and he is under pressure, trying to stay ahead of the number 4 Carsport Holland car. He just passed, and now in the NGT traffic. Oh, a big mistake at the chicane. Golin getting himself deep in there, and finding that there was just too many cars and not enough road. David, that looked like a very spectacular vaulting off the curbs. Surely that must do some long-term damage.
I'm sure it does. He realised he wasn't going to make it inside the Porsche. He took to the grass, that launched him across there, straight across the circuit and straight across the gravel track back on at the other side. But yes, some damage I'm sure done somewhere.
A phenomenal accident avoidance moment there. Into the pits on lap 36. The race leader, Jean-Marc Gounon, hands over to Lilian Brinner. They're taking fuel and the driver change. And they're also going for the tyre change. Gounon romping away. And the car taking a while to refire. And of course, the engine must be switched off while it's being fueled. Neutral plus start plus reset fuel. Those are the instructions for the driver. Now finally the engine is going, car's down. Oh, it's gone again. Lilian Brinner really struggling now. And of course, as soon as that car refuses to keep going, you'll be building up into a panic. And most of these cars with electronic systems controlling them, David, there's a set condition to switch it off and then switch it back on again. You've got to remember the sequence when you're having this panic.
Yes, there is. Normally it's a set system for the pumps, for resetting and everything else, but there they've got it. Having been shouted at in through the door, they've managed to press the buttons in the right order and get it going in.
Well, Gounon disgusted, obviously, with that. He said, I led for an hour into the first pit stop. Lilian couldn't restart. It was good fast hour. On the warm-up lap, I realised, though, that the clutch wasn't working anymore, and it wasn't too bad in the first half of the stint. Managed to do fastest lap and pulled away from the others. So now, hopefully, the car will make it to the end, but without a clutch, it's always a little bit difficult to tell. So, perhaps dramas long-term in store for car 22. 39 laps in, the Ferrari team still leading though. They were 1-2 before the stop for car 22. Jean-Denis Delatraz yet to hand over to Andrea Piccini. Just the two of them racing, of course, rather than three in car number 22. and Delatraz leading the race, in fact taken over rather from Andrea Piccini, who started the race, and Andrea Piccini is in the pits as the 23 car now leads. And our interviewer saying you had contact with the number 14 Lister early on, now you're leading. Away from the start, Jean-Marc and the Lister were battling, so I stayed a little behind to try and bide my time. Managed to do a couple of quick laps, past the Lister before the S's. He was behind me, and as soon as he made a mistake at Coppice, I was able to get by. And then it seems as soon as he could, he hit me from behind, and I was able to continue the race, but now it's fine. So the Ferrari still leads. 44 laps in, and the number 22 car that led the first session in 4th position. 23 car still out front, but smoke on the pit straight. What's that from? Well, somebody is coughing and banging, and it is the Lister number 15 car. That's Dave Warnock, the regular British GT Championship driver, pulling off on the straight. And David, that looks like a fairly major engine failure there.
Yes, it is. That exhaust is belling out lots and lots of smoke, so wherever it's happened, there's a massive hole somewhere for the oil to go where it shouldn't be, and it's belling out a lot of smoke. He's parked it on the edge down there. It doesn't look a good place to park it, but it looks like there's more than one person with smoke coming out of the car. Absolutely.
Now, don't forget, this car's been racing since the beginning without a clutch, and also one bank of cylinders is pouring oil through the combustion cycle, and that's not good. Now, he is slowing down dramatically, and exactly like the Lister, well, half the engine has let go. 2 V12s bellowing smoke on the same lap. That can't be good for the track. But Delatraz looks like he's trying to get it back. No, he's not get it back to the pits at all. He's obviously decided that the engine has really had enough, and that leaves this car, number 3, in the lead. So Mike Hazemans and Anthony Kumpen find themselves, by virtue of a couple of retirements, in the lead.
Well, that's good. The Ferrari is too quick here, and we were the quickest Vipers, so the only thing we can win is if the Ferrari has a problem.
So the Viper leading in the overall rankings. There you see them in NGT. It's still Sugden and Kirkcaldy ahead of Ortelli Duma now, with Pescatori up into 3rd place in the JMB Ferrari. Capelli and Davis in the Velox car, the second Velox car, in 4th place, because Molam and Khan down in 8th position, and unfortunately the other British run car, Liddell, has retired. 51 laps into the FIA GT Championship's 9th round at Donington Park, and here is Christophe Bouchou. Bouchou in a tense battle for 2nd place, just dropping into the pit lane then. The number 1 car, it should normally be Bouchou and Terrian. This weekend, though, they've swapped the drivers around. It's Bouchou getting in. It's Vincent Vos who's done the 2nd stint in the car, and that, I think, means that Bouchou is now in for the rest of the race. Lap 56 in the NGT class. Romain Dumas, the class leader, across the gravel. That's the Fogarty SS. Andrew Kirkcaldy 2nd place after a slightly long stop to take over the car from Tim Sugden. But still, the Velox Ferrari, the best of the 360 Moderners, or the Velox Ferraris, the best of the 360 Moderners by some way. And there is the Velox car, 82 and 83. Their 2 cars. Sugden and Kirkcaldy were the better of the pairing. Shouldn't that be a Saltire there? I think Scottish drivers tend to like to see the Scottish national flag up there, don't they, David?
It normally is, yes.
Even though it's not a national flag. And moving right along there in 3rd place in the class is the 2nd of the Pricing and Motorsport cars. Stefan Dowdy this weekend showing with Bert Longin in the car. This has really been a mix and match pairing all year long in the 55 car, but Dowdy, strong, regular GT racer, and Bert Longin, no slouch either. The Franco-Belgian production team there should do a good job with that, currently in a podium position. Lap 67, the Labra team watching the pit stop of car number 2. And the 2 cars nose to tail. In fact, the number 1 car is in as well. And and there is a Ferrari off on the side of the track. That's Andrew Kirkcody's car. Oh dear, that's not good luck for Sugden and Kirkcody, early class leaders. And, well, a lot of smoke coming out of the back of the car, which can never be a good thing to my mind, and from the exhaust pipes as well. Oh dear, oh dear. Sounds like another engine has gone west long before the end of this race. So, well, we know that the number 1 Labra car, and it's still in the pits, has made 2 pit stops already. It shouldn't be in as the number 2 car comes out. David Terrian and Carl Rosenblad. Carl Rosenblad handing over to Terrian in this their second stop. There goes the Frenchman. Now, Terrian must be a little worried, but also, David, perhaps just slightly laughing up his sleeve, because Bouchou dropped him out of the number 1 car for the weekend, therefore effectively putting him out of what, you know, the strongest challenge for the championship, as we see Philippe Alliot's car pulling off on one side down the Magny-Cours. Gosh, this is a dramatic little sequence, because the number 5 Viper is off, David Hallyday on the inside of the Magny-Cours. Kirkcody is out of a podium position in the Velox Ferrari in NGT, and being pushed into the garage is Christophe Bouchou's car. Now that will make Lawrence Pierce and Jamie Campbell-Walter very happy indeed. No point scoring for the championship leader, or one of the championship leaders, as Halliday tries to get a bit of fresh air and sees if he can get the car restarted.
He keeps trying to start the car. You can see the lights flashing on and off as he sort of keeps pressing the button. It looked as though he'd stopped because he'd spun coming down the Magny-Cours. I'm not sure why he was sitting in the middle of the circuit. I can only think that he actually spun it, but he seems to be trying to get out of it now, and the car's not going anywhere. With the lights on, the battery will go flat.
This is Christophe Bouchou in Civi saying we've broken the gearbox. Real problem, because with our rivals having problems, it was a good opportunity us to score some points to go to the final race with a better championship chance, but now everything will be decided at the last race of this season.
Unfortunately, you had a problem with the car. What happened?
Well, we're doing a good session, and everything was fine. And after the straight and the pits, I think it was an electrical failure. The car just stopped. First, we thought we were running out of gas, but it wasn't that, because we had 19 liters of fuel left. So no warning lights, nothing. So we have to check the car out, but we think it's an electrical problem, because the car stopped immediately, unfortunately.
Well, disappointment for David Hallyday and Philippe Alliot, but the plus side, David, is at least they both got to drive the damn thing in the race. Anthony Kumpen leads for Carsport Holland.
We're back into the pits now with the car 22, and I think this time they're putting in Caldellari into the car. This car, I remember, running 3 drivers, as opposed to most cars running 2 drivers. New set of tyres going on. Back one's on first, and then the front one's down it goes. Quick start, hopefully. There it goes, starting off, and it'll be off out of the pits.
Came in from second position from behind the Carsport Holland car. In third place was Belmondo's number 12 car, Ni Anarim, this weekend sharing with Fabio Babini. In fourth spot before we start this round of pit stops was the second Carsport Holland car, Capillari and Golin's Flying Machine. And whoa, the Lister Storm coming out behind the Ferrari, which was obviously not quite quick enough out of the pit lane for Jamie Campbell-Walter, taking over from Nick Springer. Springer doing the middle stint, and now Jamie charged with the effort of trying to get the car back up into top half dozen where it can score some points. So Hasemans and Kumpen sharing the number 3 car. It's been the race leader now since the Ferraris started their first round of pit stops. On board the number 50 Ferrari, this is Christian Pescatore, the only man who still can challenge Stefan Ortelli for the NGT Drivers' title. For the J&B Ferraris, well, David, they've been dropping further and further off the pace seemingly all season, and here have looked really out of their depth at Donington Park.
They really have struggled there altogether, and they've been nowhere. And the early running, as though the race goes on, they do start to come back a little bit. But, you know, to win a race, win a championship, you need to be right there all the time, and this man is right there all the time. This is Ortelli, and he's been right at the front, right behind the 2 British cars with the Ferrari and the MK Porsche at the very beginning. And when they both hit trouble, he took it up, and away he goes.
So he is now the NGT class leader, second in NGT, and still, despite that pit stop, second in NGT, Garcia and Horst Felbermeyer Jr. And problems for the Certec portion, number 64 car, running a little slowly there. That's Michele Merendino and Nicola Poulin. And still, Hazemans and Kumpen leading the race. Well, they've lost so many race wins, things have conspired against them. I wonder if this time they're going to be the ones whose car runs strong and true all the way to the end. It would certainly be a pleasant change to their season so far. They're leading in Donington Park, 76 laps into the race. Penultimate round of the FIA GT Championship at Donington Park. It's lap 108, and the race finally poised, coming into the closing stages here at Donington. And, well, we've seen dramas with the championship, one of the championship leaders, Christophe Bouchou, retiring with a broken gearbox. Jamie Campbell-Walsh and Nick Springer, joint second in points, coming here in trouble after an incident with the Ferrari of the number 23 Ferrari of Jean-Denis Delatraz and Andrea Piccini. We've seen that car retire with an engine failure, and now there's a great battle on for the podium positions. You can see Calderari being reeled in by the Belmondo car down the Craner curves. David, it almost looks as if Ferrari is stationary there, but of course he was braking as the Belmondo car accelerated down the hill. And still, Hazemans and Kumpen with nearly a 1-minute lead. And Romain Dumas staying in 6th place overall in the lead of the NGT class. Stefan Ortelli quite comfortable to allow him to do the rest of the race and remain on the pit wall. So Romain Dumas doing a double stint in this race. Ortelli doing the opening driving. And on board in the Belmondo Viper with that T-bar stick shift in front of the camera there for the sequential gearbox, which all the Vipers pretty much now have. The H-pattern gearbox, really a thing of the past in the last 2 years or so.
It's a very good picture. They can see exactly what's happening. He grabs the gear lever and pulls it back. For those of you that are wondering what that thing is that comes from the roof down to his seatbelt, it's a big piece of elastic, so that when they loosen the seatbelts to get out, the elastic pulls the seatbelt out of the way in order to let the next driver get in without sitting on the seatbelt, and then the seatbelt can be pulled. The elastic's not that strong, and it can be pulled back into position so he can have a really quick, clean driver change and not have to fiddle about looking for seatbelts where they shouldn't be.
So the lead still very comfortable for the Car Sport Holland crew, and as I mentioned earlier, it really would be a little bit of decent justice if they were to have a trouble-free and quick run while all of their major rivals fell by the wayside, because as I said, this year they have had some really bizarre reasons for retirement, not any really of which you could normally and reasonably expect. The battle for second then is, what, 3 or 4 seconds between the 22 Ferrari and the Belmondo Viper, car number 12 in 3rd place. 4th place, incidentally, is the second of the Car Sport Holland cars, Luca Capillari and Fabrizio Golin, but they have just come in and gone back out after a 10-second stop-and-go penalty, which dropped them down the order. Ferrari of Enzo Calderari flashing its lights furiously to the JVG Porsche of Ian Khan and saying, get out of the way, get out of the way. Ian Khan sharing that car with Johnny Molan this weekend, not Jürgen von Gartzen. And Ian telling me that he's delighted to have somebody English in the crew with him. He said normally what happens is he complains to the crew about the car in English. He said, I've got no idea what Jürgen complains about, if anything, because he said he talks to them in German, which I don't understand, and nothing ever seems to change on the car. At least this weekend, he and Johnny Molan on the same wavelength, trying to dial out what they both see as a monster and destabilising oversteer problem. Well, the Ferrari gets by the JVG car, and now the Belmondo car closing in as well. As we mentioned, a couple of driver lineup changes in the Belmondo outfit. Babini and Duez, who won together at Silverstone, split up. Duez with Claude-Yves Gosselin in car 11, and Babini sharing this weekend with Ni Anarim, who also hopes to be racing in the final round. Of course, that'll be his home country, Estoril in Portugal. And Hazemans and Kumpen, David, making it all look very easy indeed at the moment. Certainly keeping up a good fast race rhythm as well.
They've done this before, unfortunately it's always let them down. They've been very quick all year long, and they have led races right from the beginning, and they've pulled away and they've looked really comfortable and looked as though the championship or the race could be theirs. But as you said earlier on, they've had all sorts of things go wrong, many things you really can't do a lot about and control, and at this moment in time, keeping our fingers crossed, they are leading this race. They have done now for quite a little while, and it would be nice to see them eventually win a race this year, having led so many of the races during the season.
Up to McLean's, over the brow of the sharp right-hander, and then down the little dip and back up towards Coppice. And that's one of the real vital corners on the circuit. Exiting Coppice has got to be absolutely spot on, full on the gas, because right in front of you then is the straight past the exhibition building and down towards the chicane. It's vital for top speed running at the far end, and if you've got anyone remotely near you you want to pass or who wants to pass you, you're dead in the water at the Fog d'Esses if you are not quick out of Coppice. And this Melbourne Loop added to bring Donington up to full modern Grand Prix circuit length, the 2.5 mile minimum requirement. And of course it was after that that the European Grand Prix was run here in such horrendously wet conditions in the middle of the 90s. So far Donington Park's only modern era Formula One race, but also the venue for the last major Grand Prix of the pre-war era, of between the wars era, indeed, in 1939. When, as they were used to doing, the Silver Arrows of Auto Union came and crushed the opposition into the dirt. And anybody who visits Donington Park, not only is part of the old racetrack still being used, but a number of the other parts of the old racetrack are still in evidence and being used for entry and access roads, and you can wander around and have a look at the old circuit. Unfortunately, it's all sort of open and wide, and the farm's gone, and the bridge at Starkey's Bridge is gone, and the old hairpin's no longer a hairpin. But if you look at the pictures as you go past the modern cars don't go through the arches of the bridge, but those V16 Auto Unions certainly did. And you can just imagine what these guys in cotton overalls and leather helmets were really all about back in the 1930s.
I have to say I like the idea now of the circuit the way it is, with some nice big run-off areas, and speeds. They are a little bit faster now than they were, but don't get me wrong, the speeds they did in those days were very, very quick indeed. But the safety aspect over the years, thanks to a variety of different people, has improved tremendously. And you've got these nice wide circuits now, nice run-off areas, lots of gravel traps. You can see one coming up as we come down here to the hairpin. If they make a mess and go straight on there's a big, massive gravel trap. You just see at the bottom of the screen there for them to run into.
Last lap for the Carsport Holland car, and he will not put another lap on. David and Godfrey Jones's Porsche, the silver car right in front of you, with not only a Ricardo gearbox, but also the new extra-rigid Ricardo Porsche chassis, which they've been developing. That car's had a couple of problems with the brakes, but other than that, it's been running true. And it's victory then for Mike Hasemans and Anthony Kumpen, and might perhaps just have worried the crew crawling round behind the pits there so slowly. They might have thought, oh no, not really within sight of the line. But Hasemans just backing off to enjoy his moment of glory on his own. And, well, the car that should by rights have won at Silverstone, it was way ahead before a wheel fell off and pitched Anthony Kumpen off the track on one of the fastest positions on the circuit. And winning NGT and 6th overall, Romain Dumas comes across the line to give Stefan Ortelli the NGT Drivers' Championship. And, well, the Carsport Holland crew celebrate, and I guarantee Ortelli and the Freisinger Motorsport crew will be celebrating further down the pit lane as well, because they have won the NGT battle against the might of the JMB Ferrari team. Second place overall, the number 22 Ferrari, Calderari, Brinner and Gounon, ahead of the number 12 Belmondo Carni Anarim and Fabio Babini. They will be the podium finishers. And as for Jamie Campbell-Walsh and Nick Springer's car, no points. They are, over 25 laps behind after their long stop to change the master cylinder, the damage, the stop-and-go penalty and everything else. So I'm afraid it's 0 point for them, 0 point for the 23 Ferrari, 0 point also for Christophe Bouchou. The big winner this weekend, it's the man in 5th place. David Terrian booted out of car number 1. He is now the championship points leader in the GT class, sharing with Carl Rosenblad, coming home in 5th position. And he moves into a 2-point lead, rather, over Christophe Bouchou. So 2 ahead of Bouchou, 5.5 ahead of Campbell, Walter and Springer as they go to the final race. In the NGT class, Johnny Molamini and Khan finishing well up as well. They were in 5th place in the NGT class, ahead of Philip Pater and Toto Wolff. But let's catch up with our race winner, Mike Hazemans.
Yeah, it was okay. I think we were the only Viper who was on the pace the whole weekend, so actually we had not much chance against the Ferraris, but if they have a problem, this time we had a very big problem in the car because the belt came off of the gearbox, but it just held, so this time we were lucky.
So Stefano Ortelli, the FIA GT NGT class champion. It's a fantastic win here. Winning on this circuit is great as well. This isn't perhaps the greatest circuit for Porsches, but I have to thank the team. For them, the championship title is very important. Also thanks to Roman, he did a great job. I've had so many great co-drivers this year, he said. So also have to say thanks to Mark Liebs, Sasha Masson, Emmanuel Collard, who helped me winning the races, and being the champion is great for Freisinger, for Porsche and me. What do you think, Roman, about Stefano Ortelli? Roman put on the spot. They said we had to base our strategy on what the Ferraris were doing, and Stefan made a big margin at the beginning. I managed to hold on to it. I got into the lead and won the race, but wasn't our goal necessary to win the race, just to beat the Ferraris. So there is the championship points in the GT class then. Terrian leaves Bouchou. Oh, sweet irony. And with the Lister drivers in joint 3rd place, that's the way the battle will go. Pacini and Delatraz just too far away now to do anything about it, and they may even be overhauled by Hazemans and Kumpen, and that would be a turn up for the books for the Car Sport Holland team. Lavra, well, still leading the point standings. Lister Storm team getting no closer, and Ortelli cannot now be beaten by Pescatori for the driver's title. The Monegasque wins in the NGT category, and the Porsche Super Cup title as well went to him. So a very successful season. And Freisinger claiming the team's title ahead of JMB. Auto Orlando with RWS still snapping at the heels for the 3rd spot in the team's championship. Finally, David Terrian, good weekend for you. Team strategy put you in another car, and that worked out. Well, it wasn't really a strategy, actually. I was very upset not to be in the number 1 car with Christophe Bouchou. Anyway, I was here to try and do my best. I had a good first stint. We had a good job. We had problems with the rear tyres, though. And we also knew by the end of the first pit stop that we'd need a 3rd stop before the end of the race, a splash and dash. But despite that, we managed to hang on. So, but for that, Bouchou might be even further behind erstwhile teammate David Terrian. And David, rubbing our hands with glee as we think about what the final in Estoril might be. That's a great racetrack for close racing.
It is. It'll be absolutely fantastic there. We've got one champion here, as you see on the top there, Ortelli winning the NGT Championship. Everything else is up for grabs in the way of championships and points.
So, join me on Wednesday evening then, as we have the Super Racing magazine. We'll bring you all the action from the weekend and cross the T's and dots the I's, and bring you all the late-breaking excuses. And then the final race weekend, fortnight from this weekend, October 19th and 20th, Estoril in Portugal. Will it be sunny, or will the rain from the Atlantic make it a very difficult racetrack to guess? Well, we'll have to wait and see. As David said, Ortelli's won the driver's title, the NGT team's title, manufacturer's titles are sealed. The first place, every other position in the final standings in the entire championship is up for grabs. So too is runner-up spot in the European Touring Car Championship, although Nord Auto, Team Alfa Romeo and Fabrizio Giovanardi have claimed their 3rd title in 3 years. My thanks again to David Leslie, the voice of reason. He'll be away on holiday by the time we get to Estoril, but I'll be back. See us then in 2 weeks. Bye for now.
With LG Electronics, digitally yours.